get started with today. I've got so much I want to cover with you guys. First of all, I just want to say welcome for anybody that's just joining us for the first time. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about the number one biggest mistake that is keeping you addicted to sugar. So if you're one of those people listening right now that you're like, it's really hard for me to get off sugar, you want to watch this video and you want to listen to what I'm going to say, and then stay tuned because at the end, I'm going to make a creamy broccoli soup with a vegan cheese to go over the top. It's one of my favorite recipes, especially in the wintertime. And as I look out my window right now, it's snowing. So it's a good day for that. Okay, so the number one biggest mistake that is keeping you addicted to sugar, also how to let go of limiting beliefs when it comes to healthy eating. That's a big part for a lot of us. And you know, like more and more people are knowing about the law of attraction and the conscious language. I did a whole podcast on choosing your words well and choosing consciously. Even with that there's a lot of it out there, I still meet so many people. How many people have you heard saying, I never remember people's names, I'm really bad at names? That's a really good example of a limiting belief. So I'm going to get into that a little bit more. And then also how emotions and mindfulness play a huge role in your eating habits, right? So a lot of people think it's just whatever you're putting in, like calories in, calories out, and that is a myth as well. And I'll probably go a little bit more into that tomorrow about how calories is a myth. But today I'm just going to talk about mindset and like all these beliefs that we have around things. And and then at the end I said we're going to make this beautifully yummy cream of broccoli soup. And let's see, so there's so many recipes on the internet, and that's the one thing that Caitlin and I really pride ourselves on. We've had our culinary school for now 10 years, and I've been teaching raw foods for over 20 years. And the thing that I hear over and over again is like, whenever I see one of your recipes in the manual, like if it's some other person's book, they always work. And so I really pride myself on making recipes that work, and Caitlin and I both do, and we test them. Like she'll send me a recipe, I go, okay, I'll test it, or I'll send her one, she goes, okay, I'll test it. So we make sure that whatever you're doing, it's going to actually work. And I think that's really important because people say, well, why don't I just go on the internet and Google cream of broccoli soup? Well, someone could be putting tofu in it and it tastes pasty and awful, or they're putting unconscious ingredients in. I just saw a cooking, like a CIA recipe sheet someone sent me, and they're using safflower oil in their recipes. And I'm like, what? They're supposed to be using like more conscious whole foods, but there you go. So what we do is we pride ourselves on really delicious recipes that also the recipes that work. So this recipe you're getting today, if you haven't gotten it yet, you join the group and then you'll get it in your email. And if you haven't checked your email today, go there and you'll get this recipe. But I'm going to go through it and I'll give you the amount so you can always write it down if you're watching too. So let's see. So these foods, this one I'm going to teach you today is designed to reduce cravings and make you feel more satisfied. So why is that important? Like, why is it important to make foods that taste delicious and are satisfying versus like, well, why don't I just eat a salad and just get the calories in and just, know that I'm being low carb? Because what'll happen in a week is you're going to start craving foods because you're not getting 1, enough fat, 2, enough nutrition, and 3, enough flavor and satisfaction. So these things are all super important, and I think people overlook them over and over again, and that's why diets fail so often, is because people aren't looking at ways to actually curb their sugar cravings, to actually get rid of sugar cravings, to actually heal their body through nourishment by actually giving themselves enough fat and by making sure that their mouth is happy. Like if I'm driving home and going, oh, I could stop and get soup there, but then I go, I got an even better tasting soup at home, either in my freezer or one I can make in 20 minutes, which you're going to see today, this only takes about 20 minutes to make. So let's see. It's curb your cravings, and so like I said before, a lot of our love campers already know that after 4 weeks of doing this, like sugar cravings disappear. Instead of craving treats at night, you eat a little bit of soup, or you have different, like your keto tea that you learned yesterday, your yummy superfood tea. You just have different substitutes for unhealthy foods. So first, let's talk a little bit about sugar, because the number one biggest mistake that's keeping you addicted to sugar is the fact that, one, you're continuing to eat it. So does that make sense? Like, okay, well, I'm going to go off white sugar, but then maybe you're eating it in different forms. And actually, sugar really, before I say the different forms of sugar, the reason that happens is because any kind of sugar, and this could be a natural sugar, negatively affects your gut biome. So we have this biome in our gut that is directly tied to our brain. And that's why some people say I have a gut feeling or a gut intuition about things. When we're not feeding our gut properly, or when we're overfeeding it sugar and white food and white flours and things that turn into sugar in the body, we get out of balance. And then that gut biome fills with negative bacteria, or what we call like yeast, mold, and fungus. And those little beings have an intelligence. And so they start talking to you in the wee hours of the night, like, you need to get up even though it's midnight because you can't sleep. So go downstairs and have a cookie and that'll make you sleep. And it's stuff that you would never think in the clear light of day, but sometimes it'll sneak up on you in these moments when you're fasting, or these moments when the yeast and bacteria that's bad for you is actually starting to die off because you're not feeding it sugar. And then you're like, oh, I need maple syrup, or oh, let me put some honey in this tea. And even though that might seem innocent, what happens is if you continue to feed this bad bacteria until you get it healed, you need to eliminate all these things. Once you get it healed, yeah, a little bit of honey or maple syrup here and there, or some fruit isn't going to be a big deal. But in the beginning, you really need to go into this feeding it foods that do not have sugar in it. And that's why what we're teaching you doesn't have sugar. So let's talk about the different kinds of sweetener that you might be using. I mentioned honey, and we call this a sugar as well. And people think sugar means white sugar, but it really means anything that's spiking your blood glucose levels, which spikes your insulin levels, which cause that roller coaster. When you have it, your insulin spikes and then it crashes, so you get tired. And then that's what we call sugar burning people. Every 2 hours they have to eat because they keep just going through simultaneous sugar crashes. And then they're wondering why they're getting pre-diabetes, or why they're gaining weight around their middle, or all these different things that we know happen to people. And really what it has to do with sugar addiction. The other one is honey. I said honey, agave. So I don't even want to go there with agave. At this point, we know that agave is almost identical to high fructose corn syrup in its the way that it reacts in your body. It actually, even though people say it's low glycemia, it actually can put on weight faster than anything else. Fructose it's high in fructose, and it can actually put on weight on the body, and it's the quickest way to gain weight. That's why there's fruit in the fall before the winter starvation for our ancestors, because we wanted to gain weight and we would gain weight on fruit. But agave is just concentrated fructose, and you just want to avoid that at all costs. And still there's some raw food recipes that are using it, and some bars and stores that use agave, and they tout, oh, we use agave, but you do not want that. You're better off using honey or maple syrup before you use agave. And then the other thing is, and maple syrup, and also dates is another one. Those are both high mineral, which is great. So once your gut's healed and you're feeling a little more balanced, small amounts of those. But as soon as you start upping the amounts, you turn that sugar beast back on. So we really want to teach you how to avoid the sugar beast. And then the fake sweeteners is another one that we really want to avoid. Now, sometimes I'll use in a recipe something called monk fruit or lakanto in moderation, but you don't want to use lots of those because it's still telling your brain that it's a sweetener. But the biggest ones you never want to have is maltol. It can cause diarrhea, it can cause excessive bloating, and like the kind of where you have to you can't even leave the house. That's how bad it is. The other one is sorbitol. There's anything that ends in atol. Now I know we have erythritol. We've stopped using xylitol altogether because of the same reason. It causes a lot of bloating, gastric distress. I've had it where I've been in so much pain I can't even sleep at night. So you want to really just avoid fake sweeteners. Stevia is our favorite sweetener. We feel like it's safe. It's a whole food, especially if you're buying it in its green form or in its tincture extract. All they're doing is extracting it from the leaf. So that's not a big deal. And we use that in moderation. You saw I used a little bit, or I talked about it yesterday. But yeah, using that in small amounts. Okay, so let's get to the biggest mistake. So I mentioned it earlier, and so the number one biggest reason that we stay addicted to sugar, or that we are addicted to sugar, is our mindset. So do you keep saying things like, oh, I'm just addicted to sugar, or oh, I could never give up X, Y, Z? And I hear this all the time from people when I'm talking about health. Usually it's people that aren't in a class, but there's someone in passing like, oh, you don't eat sugar? Oh, I could never do that. So that's the first thing, is like, what are we telling our minds? If you say you could never do it, your subconscious goes, okay, you can never do that. So you really want to start looking at how you word things. And so if you say I could never give up beer, guess what? You're saying I could never give up sugar. If you say I could never give up white bread or white flour or white rice, guess what? You're saying I can never give up sugar. So these are all things that are controlling you. So do you want your food to control you, or do you want to be the one in charge? So here's some new ways of wording your past sugar addiction or something you're moving into more healthy. Instead of saying, I can't eat sugar because I'm on a diet, say, oh, you know what? I don't choose that. I don't choose to eat. Like if you're at a restaurant or whatever. And usually the quieter you are about it, the better I found. Like the less said, the better. But if you're in a situation, you say, you know what? I'm off of sugar for now, or I'm choosing to avoid these foods because I want to feel vibrant, slim, and healthy. Yeah, I'm on this vibrant, slim, and healthy program. Have you heard of it? Yeah, I'm doing that. So sugar's not part of it. Like, just be proactive about the way you're talking to people and like, oh my God, I'm so hungry. I'm craving sugar. I can't believe it. I only have to get through these 4 weeks, blah, 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 blah. And your mind's just spinning. Like, forget that. Let's start new, just saying what you choose and what you can have. I get to have a creamy broccoli soup. I get to have these amazing superfood smoothies. I get to have this amazing, powerful coffee every morning when I start my day. I get to have alkalizing green juices. I get to feel super slim, healthy, and vibrant every day, and my skin is shining, and I get to have compliments from people because of how good I look. I'm choosing that. How about you guys? So let's go through some stuff because that's just the beginning, your mindset, right? And so remember that food and sugar don't control you and that you can overcome your cravings, and I'm proof of that. I was a complete 100% sugar addict up to my 20s, and when I was 35, I went into raw foods and I got rid of all my sugar and my hidden sugars, which I just talked about a few of them, but there's a lot of hidden sugars and things. But the biggest one that I did is the future pacing. So I would walk by, like I remember distinctly being at the beach and walking by this hot dog stand. And I didn't even eat hot dogs. This was 22 years ago, or since then, whenever it was. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that smells so good. Oh, I'm at the beach. And then in my mind, I thought, you know what? In an hour, you're going to feel like crap. So that's called future pacing. How do I want to feel in an hour? I'm at the beach. I'm having fun with my friends. Do I want to be like, oh, I'm going to go home now, or let me just go, I don't feel like doing anything, or maybe it'll just snowball me into eating more sugar. Or now I'm going to have a beer because I had that, and now I'm going to have. You guys ever done this? You have one thing like the hot dog bun. And you're like, well, since I had that, I'm going to have pizza, and I'm going to have this, and I'm going to have that. So instead, you future pace and say, if I have that, 1, it might lead to a binge. 2, it might make me feel really tired and sluggish. 3, I might be really cranky when I'm interacting with my kids later. Like tomorrow, or whenever, I want to feel good when I'm around my family. What about when I get up to go to work tomorrow? Do I want to feel like the alarm goes off at 5 and I'm like, yeah, or I'm like, oh my God, what did I do? Why did I eat that stuff yesterday? I wish I could erase my Sunday. So this is a lot of today is Sunday. This is going to be a lot of people's mindset tomorrow. Gosh, I wish I could just go back and change yesterday. Well, guess what? You can by doing it now. Future pace, baby. So future self is going to love past self if you do it right. And what about when you get on the scale tomorrow morning? Do you want to be like, yeah, I'm doing it. I'm getting there. Or you're going to be like, oh, I gained 2 pounds because it was a weekend. Now I have to work even harder. None of that works. Believe me, I am proof that none of that works. I've tried it all. I've tried to trick myself. I've tried to do this binge purge fast and then, all of it. Consistency is what it's about. The next one, and I talk about this a lot in our 4-week love camp, is that willpower doesn't work. So if you think that you can will your way into getting slim or getting healthy, it'll work for a tiny amount of time. Like you can force yourself to fast, or you can force yourself to not eat sugar for the weekend or for a couple days, but in the long run, it doesn't work. So you don't just, so the number one is set and is the setting. So we call it the environment. So with willpower not working, we have to realize that whatever's around us is the most important. And that starts with what's in your cupboards. So if you have cookies in your cupboard right now, or if you're at the store and you're in a weak moment and you buy stuff going, oh, maybe I'll have that later. Believe me, when 10 o'clock at night hits and you're on the couch watching a movie, I've been there, and the cookies are screaming to you from the top shelf in the garage that you thought you've hidden from yourself, but you know where the ladder is. It doesn't work. Willpower doesn't work. So the first thing is just to not keep that stuff in the house. What I tell people is if you're going to have it while you're out, and do not bring it home with you. Give it to a homeless person. Give it to a person or anybody, whoever, a friend, a neighbor, or throw it out, but do not bring it home. And then you also want to do what's called an if-then scenario. So if I'm craving cookies, I'm going to ... Or if I'm craving fill in the blank, a beer, because I was just talking to someone yesterday, we were doing a run, and she's like, I'm down to three beers a week. I only had 3 beers last week. And she's like, I just love it. And so here's what you do. if I want to have a beer, if I want to have a blah, 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 I'm first going to, and then here are some examples. 20 jumping jacks. Put a song on. You can dance to one whole song as hard as you can so that you're out of breath. Call a friend. Usually when you're on the phone with a friend, you don't want to be crunching in their ear. So all these things are going to basically distract you from that current craving. And once you distract yourself for a little while, usually the craving will go away, because cravings aren't real. They're not hunger. If you're hungry, eat something nutritious. If you're craving, do these things. The other one is drink a glass of water. The other one is drink what I love is the carbonated water. It's called Calistoga water, or whatever you want to call it, fizzy water, carbonated water. And I'll put a little lemon in it and a little splash of 0 sugar cranberry juice. That's just straight cranberry juice. And then that's my treat. I have a hula hoop here. So sometimes I just start hula hooping. Like, oh, I'm just going to do that. I don't really get very many cravings anymore. So it doesn't last forever. But when you're in this new mode, you need to have things that you can do. So that's called the if-then scenario. And then the other one you can do is substitutions. Like I said, do a sparkling water with lemon juice and maybe a dash of stevia. Make a green juice. So what I do is yesterday I made 2 of this size green juices, 2 pint-sized green juices, and one of them still in the fridge. So later today, when I'm really wanting something, I've got a green juice in there because I'm on a fast today. Let's see. So, and that'll also alkalize your body. When your body's alkaline, you're not going to crave sugar. Once you take one step towards getting yourself alkaline and getting yourself healthy, then the rest starts to flood in. Like, I lost a pound. Oh my God, I'm on the right track. I'm doing better. I'm feeling healthier. My skin is looking good. Whatever your goals are, I don't know what it is for you. Some people just want to have more clear skin. Some people want to get rid of their back pain. Oh my gosh, my knees are not hurting like they used to. I had one testimonial recently from someone who was on the Love Camp, and she said by the second week, she didn't even realize it was she was getting out of bed, and she was always complaining to her husband about her knee pain, and she wasn't complaining. It wasn't hurting. And so like those are incentives, right? And that's going to keep you going. So remember that. And then the more your gut biome changes and it gets healed, like I've healed from candida and all the bacteria, gotten my stomach to a place where it's not bloated all the time, then that gut biome will crave healthy foods. Are you one of those people right now? I know some of you guys watching, like Celia, Michelina, Liz, all of our Love Campers, like you crave a salad. You're driving home like, oh, I need a salad versus I want a cookie. So it will change, and believe me, it will. It does happen. And then also remember that you can use substitutions for sweet stuff, like sprinkling cinnamon on your coffee or tea. Vanilla actually, surprisingly, gives you that sweet flavor without adding any sugar. Spices like cardamom, even onion powder, which I'm going to use today, is kind of a sweet flavor. Coconut milk is naturally sweet. And so these are things that you can do. Also, the last one before I get on with the recipe is to eat more fat. And today is going to have plenty of fat in this recipe. But when we're satisfied on healthy fats, then we're not craving the carbs. And for those of you guys who are new to this and think, well, isn't fat fattening? I mean, we get into that in the Love Camp, but basically, no, it's the carbs and the sugars and the fruits that are putting on the weight, the fat. Our brain is 60% fat. We actually need fat, okay? So let's get on with the fat. Yes, let's get on with the recipe. And then I want to remind you guys before I start the recipe that today is the last day of the challenge, is tomorrow. And you have till Tuesday to finish making all your recipes. Okay, so let's get on. Let me just find my recipe here and see what you guys are doing. I had to switch modes. Where are you guys? There you are. Okay, let's see if we have any questions. Just people saying good morning. All right. Let's see, Caitlin, if you want to text me any questions. It looks like there's a long list and I can't go through everything, but I'm going to check my text to see. Probably not yet because I haven't actually started making the recipe. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the soup. And what I've got here is, this is an electric skillet. It's from when I had my cafe. That way I can cook right in front of you guys. And so I'm going to be using this pot today. And so what we're going to do is we're going to start with the broccoli soup. We do have a cheesy orange sauce, or however you want to call it, like an orange cheese sauce. It's not orange flavored. It's just a cheese sauce that has an orangish color to it. But anyway, I'm going to make that while the onions are cooking. So first we're going to start with our base. Whenever you're making a soup, and this is good, like how do you just make a base soup recipe, even if you're not following my exact recipe? You want to start with a base. So the base is to put some kind of fat in. I'm going to turn my little skillet on here to medium. And medium is about 275. Coconut oil can withstand up to 350 degrees. So know that that's about medium. You don't want to do high heat because that's too high. So I'm going to put the coconut oil in. And I've got a nice little wooden spoon. I like to use wooden, not plastic, when I'm cooking. I'm just going to kind of give you guys tips and tricks as I go. And then I'm going to double this recipe, so it calls for half of an onion. So if you are doing just a single recipe, what I do, a really great trick, is I cut the onion, all of it, and then I freeze half of it in a Ziploc bag. Because onion, once you cut it in the fridge, it starts to stink it up, and it also will absorb other bacteria. So I prefer to cut the whole onion, even if you're only using a half, and cut it all up and freeze what you don't use. And then that way, oh, you need half an onion, it's already in a Ziploc in the freezer. Dump it into your skillet tomorrow or whenever you're making it. So right now I'm just going to get this coconut oil melted and the onion starting to cook. So I'm going to put that lid on for a second, just get that cooking down. I like my onions to get a little brown, and I'll show you. You can kind of see through the glass a little bit, but I'll show you what that's starting to look like. I'm just going to keep that there in case Caitlin texts me. No questions yet. Okay, so then the next ingredient is our chopped ginger. Now, I just chopped up some ginger root. This is organic. And let me just grab the whole ginger up so you guys can see what it looks like. I know a lot of you guys are not newbies, but we have over 300 participants, and a lot of you are. So this is what a ginger root looks like. It's called a hand of ginger. Guess why? And I don't peel it because it's organic, so I just chopped all the ugly bits off it. Then I just chopped it up and chunked it into some small chunks. I'm going to throw that in with the onion to get that browning as well. That's going to give it, it's going to do two things. One, it's going to give it an amazing flavor, and the other thing is it's going to add this digestive properties, digestive power to your soup. So you really want that. All right, so let me just stir that in. It smells, I wish I had smell-o-vision. I always say that, but it smells so good. Yum! Especially on a fasting day, right? Oops. Okay, so the next ingredient, and this is still in our base, is a clove of garlic crushed. So you can chop it, like for cooking actually you don't have to get your whole garlic crusher dirty. It's just as easy to chop it down like this. Because you're sauteing it, and I'm going to blend it later, so I'm just going to chop it into some small chunks. Now for those of you guys who are new and you haven't taken our courses, when we chop, we want to scrape with the back of the knife, not the front of the knife, because you don't want to dull your blade. I don't know if you can even see my board. You can't. You can't. Let me just go down a little bit. A little bit. There. Probably, well, I don't want my head to be cut off either. That's not good. So somehow in the middle, I'll figure out a way for you guys to see what I'm doing. Okay, so anyway, all I'm doing right now is just chopping this. Throw this in. Now, garlic cooks a lot faster than onions, so that's why we don't usually add it in at the beginning. Because have you ever had your garlic burn because your oil's too high? We've all done that, right? So, medium heat, get that onion browning, and then I'm going to wait on the garlic for a minute. And so while that's happening, I'm going to start talking to you guys about the other ingredients that are going to go in. So apple cider vinegar is what we're going to throw into the soup. And that is, should be right here, yes. That is, it's used as a tonic to help with digestion. So if you know anybody that has indigestion a lot when they eat, well, one, get them on this kind of diet. But if they're not willing to do that, or if they're still, even though they're eating healthier, they're still experiencing it, acid reflux, indigestion, a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar before a meal is a really great way to get the enzymes flowing. So there's whole books written on the health benefits of apple cider vinegar, but it's really the only vinegar that we use, because white vinegar and even red wine vinegar and balsamic are all very harsh on your system. And I mean, I'm not saying I never eat balsamic vinegar if I'm at a restaurant or something, but apple cider vinegar is our vinegar of choice. So we're going to be putting that in a second, and then we're going to be putting in some canned coconut milk. I like the organic coconut milk. We use different kinds, but this one was a coconut cream, and it's organic, and it doesn't have any guar gum in it. And then it calls for, I'm doing 2 cups today, so I just took the can and poured a little bit of water in it because it was pretty thick and rich. So I don't know if you can see that, but this is just the most divine. This is what's going to make your soup creamy. Okay, it looks like our onions are getting there, so I'm going to start adding my ingredients in as I'm talking. So let's put that coconut milk in. I'll stir it one more time, just to get that browning. Looking good, good, good. I love it. Yeah, I can see some brown edges there, so let's get the garlic in next. And then the coconut milk and the apple cider vinegar, sizzle. Whee! You feel that? Yep, you can see it. Going in, baby. And then the next thing is our salt. So we always call it mineral salt. Caitlin and I like real salt, Celtic salt, Himalayan salt. There's a lot of new stuff coming out about there. There's a lot of fake salt going on. So if you are using Himalayan salt, make sure it's real. And I don't know how to know, but I do know that we've switched over to Celtic salt and real salt for the most part. And that's when we call it mineral salt. That's what it means. It has minerals in it. Okay, the next ingredient on your list is coriander. So did you know that coriander, aromatherapy, coriander is the seed of a cilantro, and it's a little seed, and then they grind it down. So a teaspoon of coriander, teaspoon of cumin. Oh my God, so good. Cumin's one of my favorite go-tos. If you're someone who's just looking for flavor in your food, even if you're sprinkling it on a salad, cumin is my top #1 thing that I love to put in. Okay, next ingredient is onion powder. Well, I like onion powder so much I have a huge jar of it. So I'm going to put in, I'm doubling this, remember, so I'm putting in 2 tablespoons, but you'll put in 1. So what's the difference? Why? Okay, I know some of you are going, why are you putting in onions and onion powder? Well, let me tell you. Onion powder gives it a sweetness. It kind of fills in the gaps on your palate. If you're eating it, it's like it feels like it has everything that it needs when it has onion powder in it. And that's how I feel anyway. So that's why I use it. And I use, Caitlin and I both order from this company a lot. It's called Mountain Rose Herbs. I buy it in, this is a 2-pound bag, just because I do so many cooking classes and stuff. It would probably take you too long to go through 2 pounds, and it does tend to cake up because it doesn't have anti-caking agents. And you want your spices to be fresh. Like don't get more than 6 months worth of spices at a time. You want to use them within 6 months because they start to get old tasting. So that's all in. I'm not going to spend too much time stirring it. White pepper instead of black pepper. It gives it a little more, I don't know, the flavor, it's like a higher note. It almost has more of a cheese, like white pepper is one of my secret ingredients in anything that I do that's kind of cheesy, just so you know. And then the next thing is our broccoli. It says 1/2 pound or 1 head with the stems. Now I didn't chop the stems up yet because I was just going to kind of show you something, but I'm going to put these heads in. And they're fairly small. Actually, now that I think about it, because I want this to get cooked while you guys are here, if you're in a hurry, you want to chop things smaller. That's something really good to know. If you're in a hurry for anything, pumpkins, sweet potatoes, anything that's fibrous, the smaller you cut it, the faster it's going to cook. So I'm hungry, I want to eat in 10 minutes, then you need to do it smaller. If you have an hour or you're using a crock pot, it's not going to matter as much. And some people like bigger chunks, which I sometimes do, but because today we're not going to stand here forever and watch my soup cook, I'm going to get it smaller. And you can even just use your hands and break it up into florets. This is a super fresh head of broccoli. I bought it at Natural Grocers. And you know, a lot of people say to me, oh, I just shop at the cheap stores and get stuff that's cheap. But you will notice that it's older a lot of times, and especially places like Trader Joe's, the quality of the produce, a lot more yellow on it, a lot less fresh, which means there's a lot less life force in it. So the fresher you can get it, the better. So find stores that really have a high turnover, which is like Natural Grocers, and they only have organic. So those are the kind of places I shop. Okay, all that broccoli's going in. And then with the stems, I was just going to show you, this one isn't too fibrous on the outside, but you can just use your knife and cut off the fiber. And you don't want that stem to go to waste, right? So you can chop that up and put that right in your soup as well. You can also save this for a vegetable broth. Whenever scraps you aren't using, I keep a Ziploc bag in the freezer, and I just keep adding all my veggie scraps to it. And then I make a veggie broth about once every couple of weeks, and then I have that either to sip on or use as a base in my soup. Okay, next ingredient is cabbage. I didn't have cabbage, but I had Brussels sprouts, which are little baby cabbages. So you can use either or, and it says about 6 ounces or 1/4 of a cabbage. So this is gonna be more of a Brussels sprout broccoli soup, which I'm excited about. And then we're going to just add all the rest of the ingredients except for the spinach. The spinach has to go in at the end. So it looks like we actually have everything in except for the veggie broth. And it has a little bit of beets in it. That's why it's red, and I made this myself. You can also use water. Okay, so it's going to be pretty full here, and then I'm going to put the lid on. I'm probably going to turn it up to high, which is 350, because I I want it to cook before my class is over. So while we're cooking that, and this is really good strategizing, you want to start with that. Don't start with your cheese sauce, because if you're making your cheese sauce, nothing's cooking. So I always start with what needs to get started first. I needed to start by cooking the onions and then get all that in, get the lid on. Good, great. I can now focus on the next thing I want to do. So now I'm just going to get my cutting board out of the way. And I really think it's important to keep your kitchen clean and have everything in its place, because it's going to make you want to be in the kitchen more. So here's all my beautiful ingredients. I'm going to push my soup forward and pull my blender over. So far, is there any recipes? I mean, any questions? Okay, yes, we have some questions. Great. All right, so you were doing something. Okay, what brand is the coconut milk? I'm going to grab it out of the recycling. Today, I use Let's Do Organic Heavy Cream, and I watered it down. So this one, the only ingredients is water and heavy cream. It's a little more expensive. I got this at Natural Grocers as well. And if I had my choice, I'd probably use this all the time, because I get sick of draining the guar gum out of my coconut milk. But I buy the cheaper one at Costco, the Thai one, even though it's got guar gum, and I refrigerate it and separate the guar gum out of it after it gets solid, just because it's less expensive. But I bought that one. The next question is, yeah, I just bought that. All right. Good to freeze. The soup with, yeah, it freezes great. Yes, I love freezing these things. Okay, so now let's do the cheese. Got my blender. And I'm going to add in my ingredients. So 2 cups of macadamia nuts. So these are our little prize nuts from Hawaii. We have them on purejoyplanet.com. What I can say is we always sell out because they run out, and we keep ordering them, but eventually our gal in Hawaii is like, we're out. So I ordered 8 pounds actually I ordered way more than 8 pounds. I have like a whole fridge full because I sell them to my local people here. So if you're watching this in your local, I do sell them for $22 a pound, which is a good price actually, and they're really fresh. Because sometimes macadamia nuts in the store are rancid, especially if they're not being refrigerated. I keep mine in the fridge, except for a small jar in the cupboard for snacking, because they're good snack foods, and they're actually way higher in omega-3s than any other nut, so they're your go-to nut for snacking. Hardly anybody has allergies to macadamia nuts, and they're a really digestible fat. I don't know, they're just softer, and I love them in cheeses. So there's all those. Yes, I know you're going to ask things like, can I use another nut? You can use cashews. We don't like cashews because they have a lot of mycotoxins. If you are going to use cashews, which are really kind of more of a legume than a nut, you want to soak them really well, like at least a couple hours, and put a little hydrogen peroxide in there to get rid of the bacteria. You might even see it foaming up. It's kind of crazy. And then rinse it really well to get that up, you know, what did I just say? Get that stuff off of it. You can also throw salt and vinegar in your cashews, and like that'll like kind of clean them while they're soaking. But we like mac nuts, and I don't soak them because, as you can see, they're really clean. Next ingredient is a fresh raw clove of garlic. 1 or 2. I did 2. Lemon juice. So lemon juice is going to give it its cheesiness. A tablespoon, but you can always add more. So maybe put a little plus next to a tablespoon. After you taste it, you could be like, we could use a little more. Onion powder. Big surprise, right? Another tablespoon of onion powder. I'm going to do a heaping tablespoon. And then 3/4 to 1/2 cup water. And that has to do if you've already soaked the nuts. If you say you decided yours were dirty, you soaked them for an hour just to clean them, then you'd use a 1/2 cup of water. But I'm going to use 3/4. I don't want it to be too thick. I want it to be more like a cheesy sauce, not like dense and thick. Okay, the next ingredient is our nutritional yeast. Now, we only use one company of nutritional yeast. This is the only one that doesn't make my eyes itch, and we do sell this on the website. It's called... Should have had this out already, but it's by Premier Research Labs, and it's called Nutritional Flakes. And so I think we sell them for like $14, and you get this huge container that will probably last you a year. Don't be one of those chefs who relies too much on cashews and nutritional yeast and puts it in everything, because people don't like that all the time. I don't want everything to taste like nutritional yeast. I save it for the times when it's a cheesy thing. Like, I'm not going to put it in my salad dressings and then sprinkle it on my salad and then have it over my soup. And like, before you know it, you're addicted and you're just eating it all the time. So use things in moderation. Rotate your ingredients, okay? And then the last thing, oh wait, I forgot the miso. So the miso is one of the most important parts of this cheese. We use Miso Master chickpea miso. It doesn't have any soy in it. And I'm using, it says 1 tablespoon. I don't know why I put 2 in, but 1 tablespoon. This is going to give it, okay, so if you're trying to go vegan and you love chicken broth, this is going to give it like a soup, a chicken brothy flavor. If you're making a cheese and it's a vegan cheese, this is going to give it a cheesy flavor. So it almost has like a white wine-like, it's fermented, so it's really good in that way. And then the last ingredient is yellow or orangey turmeric to make our cheese look orange. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, pull my blender over and blend. Let's check on the soup. It's doing good. It's not ready yet. Might turn it up just a little bit more so we get it bubbling. All right, so let's blend that cheese. Guess it would be good if I plugged it in. Always start on low. Make sure your lid's on tight. Let the nuts kind of just do their thing. So sometimes it'll get an air bubble. Now you're probably watching me if you have a Vitamix going, why isn't she using the plunger? The reason I don't like to use a plunger is because it gets all coated with the cheese and then you got to scrape it all off and you're losing some ingredients there. And I just like to kind of see if I can do it without it. I mean, that's just my thing because I've been doing this for so long. So sometimes it's just an air bubble and I'm just going to debubble it and then start again. You want to go till it gets a little vortex. I'll show you what that looks like on the top. See, it's sucked down into the middle. Because it's going to go over the soup, I might even add just a tad more water. So maybe write a cup of water instead of 3/4 cup of water. Because I want it to be like a drizzle on my soup, and it'll just be a little easier. Don't start on high. That's what I'm always warning people against. I just broke my own rule. All right. Oh, and just so you know, for you guys love campers that are watching, Caitlin and I have added this into our love camp that we're going to do some recipe demos now as well during the course. So you get more demos. Isn't that fun? So if you haven't joined yet, you want to join our 4-week love camp. It starts on January 10th, and you get tons and tons of recipes, shopping lists, camaraderie with all your other campers on our private Facebook group. You get support from me and Caitlin. You get live calls every week that answers your questions. You get live food demos, kind of like what I'm doing this weekend, and you get to get all the benefits of a keto plant-based diet. Isn't that fun? Let's see if Caitlin sent me any more questions. Okay, so Alini asks, okay, so Kelly asks if I soaked the mac nuts. I covered that. Celia says, what's the difference between canned coconut milk and coconut cream? Oh, the only difference is there's more water, Celia. So the coconut cream is going to cost probably twice as much, but a great hack is that you can add a whole extra can of water to it and stir that in, and that it'll still be really rich and creamy. So it really has to do with the amount of fat in it. And I always like to water it down for like just a milk that I'm putting over my raw granola or something. We have a keto granola that's really good. It's like a pumpkin spice keto granola. So stuff like that, you want to just water it down a little bit more, but it's totally up to you. If you want it thick and creamy for your coffee, you can do that. And then Alini asks, has a nut allergy. So I would say for you, just use a little more lemon, like 2 or 3 times the amount of lemon, and use sunflower seeds. You can also really make a good pumpkin seed cheese. The sunflower seeds will turn brown really quickly, so that's why I have you add more lemon. And the lemon will actually whiten the seeds. So anybody watching, you can use sunflower seeds for this easily, but just make sure you get enough lemon in there because nobody wants to eat brown cheese on their soup, right? And this isn't just for soup. This is going to be good for anything. Look at that. That's just, so in our love camp, we give you a collard wrap. I think you get it in week 1. And a collard wrap, and we have you do a cheesy sauce in there. This is great for, oh my gosh, for everything. Like anywhere you would use melted cheese. And we do have chip substitutes, and we do have bread substitutes. We have everything. So you guys are going to have so much fun this month. I'm so glad for those of you guys who've already joined the Love Camp. And remember that you can still join it. We really want you to be there. I'm not done yet, so don't go anywhere. I'm just talking about this because I'm waiting for my soup to cook. Anyway, so I'm really happy with this. So let me just show you while I'm waiting for the soup to cook how I store it. It's really important to have glass jars. So if you don't have glass mason jars, put that on your shopping list. In fact, I think we do put that on our shopping list for, I think it's in our culinary school, but for things you need. And like glass jars with lids go such a long way in making your life easier. This is a 24-ounce size, which is 3 cups. It's a great size for most things like cheese sauces. So you're going to make this cheese sauce, and then you're going to put it in your container. And then this is going to last you for 2 weeks. So every time you're craving cheese, if you're new to plant-based and you still want to eat cheese, you have your go-to cheese sauce. Okay? Make sure you taste it. Make sure you have, I didn't taste it because I'm fasting today, but make sure it has enough salt, that you like the lemoniness. You can add more nutritional yeast. You can add more onion powder. You can add more miso. Really become your own expert on what you like. I've had people say to me, oh, I think your food's too salty for me. And I'm like, great. It's so glad that you know that. So every time you see my recipe, cut the salt either out or cut it in half. Totally your choice. You guys get to like make your own recipes from this. Just use my stuff for inspiration. So let's think about some other things you could use this for. So not only for like wraps or spreads on your keto bread and in your collard wraps, and you could use this as a salad dressing, right? You could do a marinated kale salad with this and have this be like your cheesy sauce that you use in there, so it'd be kind of like a cheesy kale salad. You could also just eat this, if you really want to go for the fat, eat a half of an avocado with this like inside of it. Yum, yum, yum. And then salad, yeah, I said already, like a salad, you can water it down and use it as a salad dressing. Any place that you would use cheese. If you're baking nachos for your kids and they're still eating corn chips, use this. I've done this for my ex-boyfriend's daughter. I would use this instead of real cheese, and she loved it. She didn't care. It tasted delicious. So then I want to put the lid on just to show you guys. And then I always label stuff because especially if you're new and let's say you are doing our 1-month love camp and you've got 6 sauces in there, it's really important to have it labeled, just a piece of masking tape or a label maker, and write when you made it, so you know. Most of our recipes last 10 days to 2 weeks, give or take. You don't want to waste food. So the other thing you can do, any of you with a dehydrator, can spread this on a drying sheet and make it into like a dehydrated cheesy crumble. Are your guys' mouths watering yet? If you don't have a dehydrator, I said this in this love camp. I told Caitlin, and I wrote it in the notes. People always say, well, what if I don't have a dehydrator? Guess what? Your health is worth $60. You can go to a place like Walmart and buy a $60 dehydrator. You can dehydrate your nuts and seeds. You can dehydrate leftover sauces and make crumbles out of them. Don't use that as an excuse for not doing health the right way. And we really believe that, sorry, I'm just going to get a napkin, that nuts and seeds should not be, roasted. We feel like they should be dried. So I'm going to give you guys that challenge today. Maybe someone gave you extra money or a gift certificate for Christmas or for the holidays. Use that on a food dehydrator. If you have a choice, get the Excalibur. And I just get the 2900 without the timer. It's the old school one. It costs $200. Free shipping if you find the right website. I'm not going to mention names of websites. I'm just going to say go on Dr. Google and find out. But because it's always changing. I could say it's here for 200 and it might not still be that price. So it's always changing. It looks like my soup is just where I want it to be. I'm going to go back down to medium. One thing I love, and I'm going to turn it around and show you that I love about this skillet, I don't know if you can see this, but it has the actual temperature, so low, and that's great for making chocolate. Medium, great for cooking at medium heat. High is really high, so they have this extra arrow that you can actually like choose 350 as your exact temperature, so it's not too high. So this I got at Bed Bath & Beyond with my coupon. This is when I had the cafe because I didn't have a stove there. And I use it for classes all the time now. I use it as a backup stove. I'm just going to use my cheesy spoon to stir. Oh my gosh, this looks so good. All right, so I probably could let it cook just a little bit longer, but just for the sake of time, I'm going to keep this cooking after I stop, but I'm going to show you what the next step is. Oh my gosh, I have snow flurries out my window. I'm going to do this. I'm going to turn it around and show you guys. Look! Snow flurries! It looks like someone's got like an air blower back there blowing like flakes around. Okay, so let's get that blender back, and I'm going to leave all that cheese in the blender and go ahead and just use a glass measuring cup is a great scoop if you don't have a soup ladle. I said label, I meant ladle. And it says to blend about half the chunks, but you could make it a completely 100% chunk-free, smooth soup, especially if you're on a cleanse. So like on cleanses, we don't want to have to digest the fiber as much, so when we blend it, it really helps. I'm going to leave a few chunks in here, but I really like my soups more on the smooth side. And then what I'll do is I'll just sprinkle pumpkin seeds or something on top for crunch if I want that, or kale chips. So that's just my personal preference. Some people like a little more chunk in their soup, so you get to decide. So I'm going to go ahead and blend this. Can you see my blender? Let's move everything over, shall we? Well, that doesn't want to come any further. So let's see. I'll move that up. And then you guys can all see the spoon. Yeah, that's good. It's good. Okay, remember, and this is in your instructions, triple check that it's on low. Maybe it's not. It was in your coffee instructions. And that the lid's on, because this is hot. And I have heard of people, not from my recipes, but other people burning themselves trying to make a hot soup in a vitamin. So be careful. Okay, low, and then just start slow and low. Oh, guess what I forgot? The spinach! So I keep my spinach in the freezer because it just goes bad before I can eat it all. I don't really do that many smoothies anymore. Like in winter, it's too cold. Although I have been doing some room temperature smoothies when I'm on a cleanse. But anyway, so it calls for 4 cups, and I'm supposed to use 8 cups because I doubled it. So I'm just going to put that frozen spinach right into the soup, and I'll put some into the container as well. I was wondering why it wasn't as green as it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be a pretty green soup. So yeah, anyway, that's a trick that you may not know about, is you can freeze your kale, your spinach, your collards, all those freeze really well if they're going to go bad. And then they defrost super quickly. So almost always my spinach is in the freezer because I don't like spinach selling. I'm one of those people that I don't like the fuzziness that spinach makes my teeth feel fuzzy, but I can do it if it's been frozen or if it's cooked. Look how green. That looks way greener and way delicious. I am excited about this winter soup. So this is lunch. This can be breakfast. So when I went sugar-free 22 years ago, I was following Dr. Gabriel Cousins, and I went sugar-free and raw, and I was eating green soups like this. If they weren't cooked, they were a little bit different version, for breakfast. I started, because I got off sugar, and, what happens is we feel like we have to have these sweet things for breakfast, but that's just in our mind. Like, who's telling you to eat sweet things for breakfast? So you can have soup for breakfast, you can have it for lunch, and you can have it for dinner. This could be a great smoothie substitute. And then so the last thing I'm going to do before you guys all go, and make sure you type in any other questions. They're asking about recipes, and they're all in your email. So if you're wondering where to get the recipes, people are commenting in the notes, but sign up for our 3-day challenge if you're not a member yet, and it's free. And then Caitlin will send you all the recipes via email. All right, so this spinach soup is looking delicioso, or it's actually broccoli. And then I'm going to put it in a bowl. I think plating is important. So like a white bowl for this is going to be good. Make sure you taste it for flavor balance before you eat it. Might need more salt. I don't know. My nephew, he stays with me sometimes, and we both have really high salt tooth, so he and I are always putting a little extra things in. So then you want to plate it nicely. A little bowl of soup there. And let's see, I'm going to turn this off just so it's quiet. Oh, that's better. And now time for the drizzle, right? So there's different ways. If you're doing this at a, let me move this way. Move that back. Can I do that? Can you still see? Okay. If you're doing this at a dinner party, I'm going to put a plate underneath just to make it look fancier. You could use a squirt bottle, right? So you can have it like perfectly like squeezy on there. This cheese sauce is still pretty thick. I could have even gone thinner, but I think I'll do okay with it. So you kind of just want it to be warm. If it's coming straight out of the fridge, it's going to be cold. So add a little hot water and kind of stir it up. But you don't want it to all sink to the bottom. So different ways you can do it, like you can just kind of drizzle it in drops like that, and then use a chopstick to kind of make it look fancy. I like to do fancy stuff because people are always more impressed. And you know, we eat with our eyes first. So then just take that chopstick and kind of, it's not working because it's too thick. I would probably thin this out just a little bit. I'm going to do that. So make sure it's thin enough that it's more drizzleable. Because I think this cheese sauce that we have on there, we like it to be thicker because depending on what you're doing with it. So you can even just thin some of it out, maybe not all of it, so that it'll be more drizzly. See, there we go. I want it to kind of stay on top because that's the exciting part, right? There we go. You guys see that? You just do a couple lines, kind of what we do in our cheesecake, but there you go. Sprinkle that with some sunflower seeds or pumpkin seeds or kale chips, and you've got an amazing, delicious breakfast, lunch, or dinner, or snack. And this is a huge batch, right? So what I'll probably do is freeze it into 4 containers, and then I'll label it, and I'll put it in my outdoor freezer, and then I've got soup for a couple weeks. I don't have to keep, that's why Sundays are great food making days. I could have been making 3 soups at a time, and then I've got food for the week. So remember that. You don't have to spend every day in the kitchen, and that's where people also sabotage themselves with weight loss and with health goals is they're like, oh, I ran out of time. But, you know, if you have a Sunday, just be in the house. It's snowing like crazy today. I'm not going anywhere. I'll just cook up a bunch of stuff for the week, get my sauces ready, my salad dressings ready. Let's just see if there's any more, Caitlin found any more questions for us. Oh yeah, we do. Okay, so stay tuned because I got more answers. How long will the chopped onions last in the freezer before they lose their taste? I would say, Eleni, if you put it in a seal-a-meal, it's going to last 6 months. If you put it in just a regular Ziploc non-freezer baggie, it's going to last like a week. And if you put it in like a glass container, like one of those Tupperwares, it's probably going to last a month or so. It really all depends on how you do it. So seal-a-meals are the best way to go, but we don't always have those. So a week in a Ziploc. How about that for an answer? And then also, someone just said they loved everything. So thank you. I'm so glad you guys joined me. Okay, love you guys. Hope you have an amazing Sunday. See you tomorrow. Bye.